Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Thank you so much for joining us today on yet another leg of the journey to Guruvayur. I would like to begin with a small prayer to Sri Krishna as the little child. Kararavindena padaravindam mukharavinde viniveshayantam vatasya patrasya puteshayanam balam mukundam manasa smarami balam mukundam Manasa Smarami. I meditate upon that divine child Mukunda, the one who liberates, who, lying on the folds of a peepal leaf, with his lotus like hand, takes hold of his own lotus like feet and puts his toe in his lotus like mouth. This prayer, I was first introduced to this verse, which occurs in the Bala Mukunda Ashtakam, but I later discovered that it is also a part of the Sri Krishna Karnamritam. We'll talk more about the Sri Krishna Karnamritam a little later in the presentation. Thank you for joining us again, and let's begin. So, though Sri Krishna is present at Guruvayur in his four-armed form as Mahavishnu, he is believed to be running around, of course, unseen by us ordinary humans. He is believed to be running around in the temple premises as a little child. The Lord, as we know, he is so merciful that he appears to his devotees in whatever form they visualize him in, however they wish to pray to him, as their friend, as a father, or as a mother, or as their master, or as their child. The Lord says in chapter 4 of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, verse 11, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tams tathaiva bhajamyaham. I bless my devotees accordingly, according to their devotional disposition. So, Kururama and Vilvamangalam Swamiyar were two of Guruvayurappan's foremost devotees who prayed to the Lord as a little child. So, their object of worship was Unni Krishna or baby Krishna or child Krishna, as however we would like to refer to the Lord. So, we'll first look at the life and times of this highly exalted devotee of the Lord called Kururama. She is probably the greatest example of motherly affection or motherly devotion towards the Lord in recent times. Quite recent, actually. It's the 16th century, just about around 500 odd years ago. So Kururama was born as Gauri in a Nambudri family of Kerala up in about the year 1570. And at a very young age, married to an elderly Vedic scholar of the Kurur or the Kurur family in the Vengilaseri village of Kerala. And because she was very young and her husband was quite elderly, she became a widow at the very young age of 16. Marriages took place at a very early age in those days. So Kururama, she was childless, of course, and all, although she was conditioned in an atmosphere of devotion right since her childhood, her devotion only increased by leaps and bounds as time progressed. So she spent all her time chanting Krishna's names, visualizing him as a little child. And one by one, she was slowly abandoned by all her relatives. And one fine day, she was left all alone in that huge house. There was no one to keep her company. She only, uh, all she could do, all she did was spend all of her time praying to the Lord, chanting his names and calling out to him. She had absolutely no other thinking. It was the Lord who occupied her mind and her heart at all times. And her constant prayer was, "Oh Krishna, please don't leave me alone. You left Yashoda Mata in Vrindavan and you proceeded forward, but please don't leave me alone like that. I only have you for company. Who else do I have in this world? All I have is you. So please don't leave me alone." So, and how could the Lord keep quiet? The Lord couldn't possibly leave such a devotee alone, could he? So, in answer to her constant prayers, the Lord came to her as a little boy. He lived with her and he helped her with all the daily household tasks. He lived with her as her own child would have. He did everything that, if she had had children, uh, he did everything that her own child would have done for her. But because of the influence of the Lord's own Maya or illusion, she did not realize that it was the Lord who was living with her as her own child. She He was just another ordinary child who had no family to call his own, uh, and that he was spending time with her because he found, uh, he saw her as his mother. And just a minute, am I audible to all the devotees?
Yeah, you are. Sometimes you just break a little bit, but you are audible.
Okay, let me just try changing the audio settings. Just a minute. Mm, okay. Is it better now?
Yes.
Yeah, better? Okay. Okay. So, yes. So, as I said, Kuru Rama did not realize that it was the Lord himself who was living with her as her own child. And she showered all her affection on him. She scolded him as a mother would scold her child. She loved him. She gave him everything that a mother would give to a child of her own. And for every little bit of love and affection that Kuru Rama showered on the Lord, he responded in equal measure. And so, one very interesting episode which occurred in the life of Kuru Rama. So, one night it is said that as Kuru Rama was returning home from the temple, she used to visit the temple daily. And one night, as she was returning home from the temple, she happened to lose her way in the dark. It was dark. There were no lights. There were no street lights or street lamps in those days. And it was quite dark by the time she started to make her way back home. And understandably, she was a little scared because it was dark. She was all alone. She was quite old and she did not know what to do. And it was then that a very charming little boy passing by, apparently, he came to her aid and said, "Mother, I will guide you home. I'll take you home. I'll hold your hand and let's walk home together." So he held her hand and Kururama she happily passed the time in the company of the child who was so very cheerful, and his company was such that she did not feel in any manner any of the fatigue or the tiredness that she had experienced as a result of the journey home. And on reaching home, Kururama was so happy. She couldn't thank the boy enough for his help, and she was desperate to give him something in return. Of course, she did not know who the boy was at that time, but she was so desperate to thank him in some manner or the other. She had to give him something, but she did not have any material possessions of any value. And when she expressed her dilemma to the child, she said, "Oh, I so want to give you something. You've been so kind to me. You've been so very helpful. I just wish I could give you something, my boy. I'm so sad that I don't have anything to give you." The child smiled and he asked, "It's okay, mother, but if you do want to give me something, could you give me a cloth to cover myself? Because you see, it's raining outside. It's raining very heavily. So, could I have some kind of cloth to cover myself?" Kururama, she immediately took a piece of the sari that she was wearing and she offered it to the child, who very happily accepted it, and he made his way back. The next day, when Kururama visited the temple in the early hours of the morning, she found, to her utter surprise, the very same cloth that she had handed over to the child the previous night. That cloth was tied around his waist. She was lost for words. How could this happen? I gave the cloth to the child yesterday, and here Krishna standing right before me wearing that very same cloth. This can only mean that it was Krishna who came to help me. It was Krishna who held my hand. It was Krishna who came to my home and took the cloth from me and went back. Just imagine it must have been for that old to when when the realization hit home, when she realized that it was the Lord who had come to the aid of a simple woman like her. So this episode, it led to the tradition of Guruvayurappan being adorned with a red silk cloth tied around the waist every morning at the time of the Usha Puja, or when the sun rises at the time of dawn. There is a puja that is performed every day. At this time, invariably, the Lord is always dressed like this, like the photo that you see on the screen. Of course, this is an artificial, but this is how the Lord looks early in the morning. In Malayalam, that piece of cloth is called komanam. So, pattu komanam, they call it, or silk cloth. Okay. Mm. And yes, so Kururama's devotion and affection and love for the Lord was so very great that she is said to have been liberated from her physical body. She is said to have been liberated from this physical world while she was resting her head on Krishna's lap, chanting the Vishnu Sahasranam. It was only in her very last moments that Krishna revealed his true form to her. Until that very moment, Kururama had absolutely believed that all those years it was Krishna who had relieved her of her loneliness. It was Krishna who had kept her company. It was Krishna who had brought her so much joy, so much happiness, so much so that she never ever felt that she was all alone. And in those last moments, it is said that the devotion was so incredibly moving that even the Lord was moved to tears as she chanted the last few names of the Vishnu Sahasranamam. Devaki Nandandrashta Kshitisha Papanashana. These names are the end of the Vishnu Sahasranama. So the photographs of the temple that you see on the screen, these are photographs of the Kururama Sri Krishna temple at Vengalasheri in Kerala. And this temple, it stands at that very location of Kururama's home, where the Supreme Lord Krishna lived with her as her own child, playing with her and helping her with daily tasks. In reality, Kururama attained mukti or liberation from the physical world in about the year 1640, which is mid 17th century. Her family home ceased to exist after her passing. Her home did not exist anymore, and it was forgotten for many years after that. But in the year 2002, um, as the result of an astrological investigation or study called the Ashtamangala Deva Prashnam. In uh, this is a typical astrological investigation which is conducted in very important situations in Kerala, mostly in connection with temples. The results of the astrological study revealed that the land where the Prashnam was conducted was used to be the location of Kururama's ancestral home, and that the land was blessed by the touch of Sri Krishna's own feet and by the presence of Kururama many centuries ago. And accordingly, a temple was constructed on that piece of land, and the presiding deity of this temple is Bala or Little Krishna or Baby Krishna. We now will learn about yet another very great devotee of the Lord called Vilvamangalam Swamiyar. Before I come to the specific discussion in relation to Guruvayur, I would like to mention that historically there are multiple accounts of saints by the name of Vilvamangalam Swamiyar across various periods of time. So if we try to dig a little deeper into historical records, we will find that there have been multiple mentions of a saint by the name of Vilvamangalam Swamiyar, but in different periods of time. So it is possible that uh, there have been more than one person, more than one saint by the same name. So, to give a little background, Adi Shankaracharya, who I mentioned in relation to Guruvayur a few sessions ago, he was the one who laid down the system of regulated worship that is followed even to this very day. So, Sri Adi Shankaracharya had four main disciples going by the names of Sureshwaracharya, Padmapadacharya, Hastamalakacharya, and Totakacharya. So these four disciples of Sri Adi Shankaracharya, they founded four centers of spiritual studies in Kerala. Now, the first head of one of these four centers was called Vilvamangalam Swamiyar. It was, of course, a title. It was not his birth name, but a title that was given to him when he took initiation from his guru in his later years. Swamiyar was a direct disciple of Sri Sureshwaracharya, who I mentioned above, and he is very closely associated with the Sri Ananta Padmanabha Swami temple at Tiruvananthapuram in Kerala, where he is believed to have performed the very first worship to the deity. So the photograph that you see on the screen is a drawing or a painting of the deity of Sri Padmanabha Swami at Tiruvananthapuram. You really have to see it, see the deity to believe just how magnificent the darshan is. Photographs do not do the temple or the deity any kind of justice at all, because this deity is feet, imagine 8 feet in length, lying so regally, like the king of the universe that he is, lying on the serpent bed or the snake bed, lying on the snake Ananta or Adisesha. And the temple darshan is only possible through these 3 doors. So you cannot see the Lord all at once. You can see him only little by little through each of those 3 doors. It's a beautiful temple, really. It's huge, it's magnificent, and it's incredibly beautiful. So
You-
I hope.
Mhm.
Sorry, we've been there, and it is absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
Lovely, lovely.
Mm.
I agree. It's incredible. Words, photographs, videos, they don't do the temple justice. Such temples, not just Padmanabha temple, but all these great temples, they are all classic cases of seeing is believing. So yeah. So yes. So this is or saint by the name of Vilvamangalam Swamiyar in Kerala. There is yet another Vilvamangalam Swamiyar said to have belonged to the Panniyur village in Kerala. The village is very famous for its Varaha Murti or Varaha Swami temple. And this Vilvamangalam Swamiyar, the second one, also known as Leela Shuka, is said to be the author of the Shri Krishna Karnamritam, a very, very great devotional work in Sanskrit. So the photograph that you see here, it is the cover of one such edition of the Shri Krishna Karnamritam, published by the Guruvayur Devaswam or the Guruvayur Temple Administration. And this Vilvamangalam Swamiyar or Leela Shuka, the author of Sri Krishna Karnamritam, is very well known to most Krishna devotees of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya as Vilvamangala Thakur. How many of the devotees or the wider group of Krishna devotees that we have here, I am not sure how many must have heard of Bilvamangala Thakur, but Sri Krishna is amongst the most exalted works of devotion in the culture of Bharat.
Yeah, in ISKCON, he is very, very famous, actually. Everyone knows him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, but the focus of our discussion today is a saint and a devotee, also called Vilvamangalam Swamiyar, but going by historical records and going by accounts of his interactions with other devotees of Guruvayurappan who lived around the same time period, he we can guess that he must have lived sometime during the 16th or the 17th century. And he was a very highly evolved devotee of Guruvayurappan, and who had visions or darshans of the Lord many times, whenever he wanted to, in fact. So he had reached that uh, stage of evolution in bhakti. But on many occasions, he was also very humbled, because on each occasion, every time, the pure devotion that Guru Rama had for Sri Krishna proved to be much, much greater. So, one such very interesting episode. So, Krishna, he lived with Guru Rama as a child, as a little boy. So while he was once helping Guru Rama prepare for her daily worship, he once decided, oh, why don't I get up to some mischief? Let me have some fun. So what he did was, the puffed rice that was offered as naivedyam to the Lord, which then comes back as prasadam. So Guru Rama, she had separated the husk from the grain. So she had removed the husk or the covering of the puffed rice. She had separated that out, and she had very painstakingly, she had taken the rice separately so that she could offer it to the Lord during her worship. And what Krishna did was, he went and he mixed up everything. So he took the husks and the rice and he mixed it all up and he put it back there. And then he stood there looking apparently very innocent. Oh no, I didn't do anything. Now Guru Rama, of course, she knew that it was Krishna who did that. She did not, of course, know that he was Krishna. She saw him as just another child. But she was slightly annoyed because, of course, at her age, small tasks proved very laborious for her. But she said, okay, he's a child after all. Children are bound to get up to mischief. So she went and she separated the husks again, she rice aside, and Krishna went back and mixed everything back again. And he kept doing it again and again and again because he was having fun. And he thought, yeah, but uh, it's so much fun. I'm enjoying this. Even though he seemed to be annoying Kuru Rama very much, and at one point she could take it no more. So what she did was, she picked him up, and there was this old mud pot or container which was used to store water in those days. It was empty. She picked him up and she put him inside the pot and she closed it. She shut him up inside that pot. Said, this is what you get for troubling me. Now you better sit there till I complete my worship. You have troubled me enough for one day. But after, her thoughts kept going to, oh my God, what have I done? I have taken a little child and I have shut him up in that old pot. He must be so scared. I shouldn't have done that. He's a child after all. What have I done? And then she went and she released him from the pot. Said, I'm so sorry. I tried to shut you up, but you must promise me not to do this again. And then, keeping a very, very innocent expression on his face, he ran. He mixed up the rice and the husks again, and he ran away. He ran away from there. And now all this was going on in Kuru Rama's house. And on the other hand, there was this Vilva Mangalam Swamiyar, who I have been talking about. He was waiting to have the darshan of the Lord. He used to have the darshan of the Lord every day during his daily worship. And so he kept waiting. The Lord did not come at the usual time. He started wondering, what must be delaying the Lord? The Lord is never late. And he kept waiting and waiting and waiting. And when Krishna finally, Vilvamangalam was surprised to see him with muddy stains all over his body. He did not know that Guru Rama had shut him up in that old water pot. And he saw him, what is this? What have you done to yourself? Look at yourself. You are covered in mud and dirt and dust all over. What have you been up to? So Krishna said, you see, I was being very, very mischievous today. So, as punishment, Guru Rama shut me up in an old pot. And it was only now that she released me. What was I supposed to do? Imagine a situation where the Lord of the universe, nothing, absolutely nothing in the universe can move without his will, without his consent. Such a Lord of the universe allowing himself to be shut in an old pot by his devotee because he was annoying her or because he was being mischievous. This only shows just how pure, how unalloyed Guru Rama's devotion must have been for the Lord to reciprocate in such a manner. This was one occasion where Guru Rama's bhakti or devotion took greater precedence over the devotion that Vilva Mangalam had, because solely because of the purity of her heart. On one yet another occasion, so this time, Guru Rama had invited Vilva Mangalam Swamiyar to her home so that he could she wanted to offer worship to the deity of Sri Krishna that she had in her home. And very respectfully, she invited him to come over. But what happened was, before Guru Rama asked, by that time, Bilva Mangalam had already accepted another invitation from another devotee. And he thought, okay, I'll go to Guru Rama's house later. Let me honor this invitation first. So he neglected, he almost nearly completely forgot about it. But so he had this practice of blowing the conch as a mark of beginning something auspicious. He had the habit of blowing the conch every time he left his house for an auspicious venture or to go to a place of worship. And when he put the conch to his mouth, he found that he couldn't blow the conch. This just refused to make any kind of sound. And he was worried because this had never happened before. And he kept thinking and thinking and thinking. And then he realized, oh my God, I promised Guru Rama that I would visit her home and offer worship to Sri Krishna. And now I have forgotten. She must be waiting for me. I promised her that I would come and I neglected that. And when he made up his mind to visit Guru Rama's house instead, the conch immediately produced the most auspicious and the most beautiful sound. So he took that as a signal and he went. He went to Guru Rama's house. So there, when he was offering flowers to the deity of Sri Krishna, he noticed every flower that he offered to the deity in front of him, instead of falling at the feet of the deity, the flowers all started falling at the child who was standing right next to him. And he thought, okay, this is just a one-time occurrence, so let me do it again. But every flower that he kept offering, instead of falling at the feet of the deity, all those flowers fell at the feet of the little child who was standing there. And mind you, it was only Vilva Mangalam who could see this. Guru Rama had absolutely no idea. And Vilva Mangalam realized that this is not an ordinary child, this is Krishna himself. So he really is living in this house with Guru Rama as her child and helping her with everything. But she doesn't realize this because of Maya. And he looks up at Krishna, and at that moment, Krishna smiles at him and he indicates with his eyes, don't tell her anything. Don't tell her. You know that it is me. You can see me, but you don't tell her that it is me. She doesn't know. And yes, so these were two very, very great devotees of Guruvayurappan. These children who grow up listening to the stories of such devotees, who grew up listening to the legends of Guruvayur. We grew up listening to uh, uh, the leelas that the Lord enacted while living with these devotees, while interacting with them. We've grown up listening to all these pastimes, and it really is a pleasure for me to be sharing this with all of you. Lastly, I would like to speak about yet another devotee of Sri Krishna. He was a king. His name was Manaveda. Raja, of course, is a title because he was a king. So Manaveda Raja was a king of the Zamorin or the Samudri dynasty of Calicut, which is Kozhikode in present day Kerala. So he was a very, very righteous, very benevolent king, and he was a scholar of Sanskrit as well. So he considered Bilvamangalam Swamiyar to be a guru or a teacher and a spiritual guide. So one day he went to the Swamiyar and he said, I wish to have darshan of the Lord. I know the Lord gives you darshan every day in whatever form you wish, at any time you wish. You are such a great devotee of the Lord, so you must help me, you must guide me, so that I can also have the darshan of the Lord like you do. So the Swamiyar said, okay, but I must talk to the Lord first. I have to get the Lord's consent. He has to agree. The king said, okay. And later, Swamiyar comes back to this king, Manaveda Raja, and says, okay, so early in the hours of tomorrow morning, you can see the Lord playing at the foot of a tree in the temple premises. This tree is referred to in this pastime is called Ilani in Malayalam, but in English, I think it is called Spanish cherry or bullet wood in English. I think in Hindi it is called bakul. I'm not very sure. But in Malayalam, it is called Ilani. So the Swamiyar said, you can see him playing at the foot of this tree tomorrow in the temple compound, but you must watch from a distance. So Manaveda was very excited. Oh my God, really? I can't wait. And the next morning, he went to the location of the tree. And he did indeed see the Lord. He saw the Lord running around the foot of the tree and playing like a little child. And he was so excited, so very happy. He completely forgot who he was. He completely forgot why he was there and where he was. And he rushed forward to hug the Lord, to embrace the Lord. The Lord disappeared, but at that very moment. And he said, Vilva Mangalam did not tell me this would happen. He only told me that you would come to see me, but he did not tell me that you would come rush forward to embrace me like this. But he did not entirely disappear. When he disappeared from the spot, he left behind a peacock feather that he was wearing in his crown. He left it behind on the ground. So Manaveda, the king, he was of course very disappointed. He thought, oh my, I shouldn't have done that. Did I drive the Lord away because of what I did? what shall I do? Shouldn't I have done that? Did I do something wrong? So he went to Vilvamangalam Swamiyar for guidance, and as directed by the Swamiyar, he went to the Sanctum Sanctorum, the central shrine of Guruvayurappan in the temple, and he pledged, he made a pledge right there and said, "O Krishna, forgive me for anything wrong that I may have done, knowingly or unknowingly. Right here, at this moment, I promise to compose and dedicate a dance drama to you, and I shall use this peacock feather which you have left behind to make a crown for the actor who will play the role of Krishna in the dance drama that I shall compose." So this photograph that you see here is a memorial for this king in Guruvayur. And so we now come to the topic of Krishna Natam, which literally means the dance of Krishna. It is a very typical traditional art form peculiar to Guruvayur. It is not, although these actors are said to tour from village to village or from city to city, they are invited to give performances in other cities or towns sometimes. But this Krishna is definitely a dance form or an art form unique to Guruvayur. It has had its origins in Guruvayur and is a speciality of this temple town. So, the tree where the king saw the Lord playing used to stand at a location in the temple where currently there is a platform where it's placed on the ground. So there are steps you can climb. It's got a roof, very beautifully done in the traditional Kerala style architecture. So this platform is called Kootambalam in Malayalam. So you can imagine it as a sort of an open air stage. So this is within the temple. So this is where the tree that I referred to in the previous slide, where the king saw the Lord playing, that is where the tree used to stand. So at that time, what the king did was he got a deity of Sri Krishna made out of the wood of that tree, and with single minded, focused devotion, he prayed to that deity of Sri Krishna. He prayed to the Lord for guidance and direction. And with that devotion, he composed what we today know as the Krishna Giti. This devotional work that he composed in Sanskrit, divided into 8 cantos, that became the basis for the dance drama Krishna Natam. So the 8 cantos Avataram, or the appearance of the Lord, Kaliya Nartanam, or the dance upon the head of the snake Kaliya, Rasa Krida or Rasa Leela, Kamsa Vadham, Swayamvaram or his marriage to Devi Rukmini, Bana Yuddham or the battle with Banasura, a canto called Vividavadham. I believe this second last canto involves a depiction of all those pastimes where the Lord vanquished demon after the other. And lastly is Swargarohanam, or the ascent of the Lord back to his heavenly abode. So all these 8 dance dramas, after the king had composed them, they were staged right in front of the Lord, in front of the Sanctum Sanctorum of the temple. And because it was considered a little inauspicious to conclude the performances with the end of the Lord's Leelas on earth. No one likes to listen to the end of such beautiful pastimes, right? So, because it is considered inauspicious to end with Swargarohanam on the ninth day, so one play was staged on each day, so 8 consecutive nights, and on the ninth night, Avataram or the appearance of the Lord was enacted again. So, this practice is followed right until this day. The photo that you see on the screen is just one glimpse of what a Krishnanatam performance looks like. This is from inside the temple. These performances take place inside the temple after the main doors of the sanctum are closed for the day. So after all the pujas are over, after all the worship is complete, the temple is closed and this performance of Krishnanatam takes place. Devotees, it's a tradition for devotees to make an offering for this play to be performed, depending on what their prayer is. So those wishing for a child may choose to have performance of avataram or appearance of the Lord to be conducted in the temple. It's just an example. So I have not had a chance to see the Krishnanatam being performed inside the Guruvayur temple, but a few years ago, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, there were a few artists who had traveled from Guruvayur to Mumbai, and as part of a series of traditional cultural programs, we were fortunate to see one such performance of Krishnanatam by some of these artists. The entire get up that this particular artist is wearing. So it's not just this one artist. There are different artists, of course. Some playing the role of Krishna, others playing the role of Radha or Krishna's parents, or Rukmini or Arjun. So there are so many different actors playing so many different roles. It takes them hours and hours to get ready, to get this costume in place. So this costume is in the traditional Kathakali style of Kerala. It is incredibly detailed, but very, very unique. And those who have had a chance to see it in the temple would be best placed to tell you how the experience really is. Uh, these Krishnanatam performances are not ordinary. They are believed to be so charged with divine energy that the Lord Himself is said to come and watch these performances unseen by the other devotees. They say He comes, He watches the performance, and then He goes back, because obviously He cannot not be present because people come to see Him the next day, won't they? He has to be there. He has to be there to receive his devotees. So it's very interesting. It's so we although we might not be, if we do have a chance to watch such a performance, although we might not be able to see the Lord ourselves, but we can take comfort in the fact, well, like, oh yes, He is somewhere nearby. He's sitting somewhere around here and He's enjoying this performance along with us. So yes, that brings me to the end of today's session. I hope it has been interesting for the devotees to learn a little more about a few more great devotees of the Lord and Krishnanatam, which is very unique to this particular temple. Thank you to all the devotees for listening so very patiently. Thank you so much. It means very much to me to have your support. I thank you very much, and I hope we continue to have your blessings in the future as well. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shruti. It was amazing again, especially relating to the first devotee that you
Guru Rama, yes.
Guru Rama. Yeah. is similar to Yashodama's love for Krishna.
Exactly, exactly.
Like,
She is incredibly
yeah.
blessed. Such devotees, their devotion is so great
Hmm.
that we pray to them to be blessed with such devotion. Just as we pray to the Lord, we pray to them that we be blessed with the devotion that they had.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Mother.
Thank you. And also this dance, the Krishnanatham,
Krishna.
again reminds me of the Devdasis who dance for Jagannath in Jagannath Puri.
Right.
And they again train and just dance for Jagannath similarly like that. So it's amazing how all the different areas really tie up. It's a similar theme everywhere.
Definitely. Although the way of presentation or the way of expression may be different in different
Of course.
places, but the basic sentiment of devotion is really the same everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare
Anyone else for any comments or any questions?
Thank you, Mataji, for these beautiful pastimes. I've been reading a little bit about the Bhakti movement or the Bhakti period in India, but I never come across the different person that you mentioned. Guru Rama, such nice pastime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so thank you. So